Imagine waking up on September 21st, 2025. The world outside your window is both familiar and utterly transformed, a place where history took a different turn, and the future is shaped by choices never made in our reality. Your phone isn't from Apple or Samsung but Electronica Zelenograd. It's a device designed and built in the heart of the Soviet tech industry, running on software crafted by engineers who never left for Silicon Valley. Notifications ping in Cyrillic, and your social feed is a blend of Soviet and global news. The news: US and Soviet ambassadors spar at the UN over a climate accord. The world's two superpowers still shape every global debate. Their rivalry as fierce as ever, but now focused on the planet's survival rather than its destruction. The top story? A joint Mars mission delayed. Decades of competition have given way to uneasy cooperation in space, with both sides racing to plant their flag on the red planet, but still struggling to trust each other. The Berlin Wall still stands, now a high-tech border, not a relic. It's a living symbol of division, but also of adaptation, with biometric scanners and digital passes replacing barbed wire and guards. What if the Soviet Union never collapsed? This isn't just a thought experiment, it's a way to see our world in reverse. Imagine cities where Soviet ideals blend with modern technology and propaganda posters share space with digital billboards. The fall of the USSR in 1991 shaped everything: global power, capitalism, democracy. But was it inevitable? What if the crowds in Moscow never toppled the old order and the world's balance of power never shifted? Let's rewind to the early 90s and change one outcome. Imagine a single decision, a moment of luck, and history's river flows in a new direction. The Cold War doesn't end, it evolves, colder and more digital. Espionage moves online, and the arms race becomes a tech race, with hackers and AI as the new weapons. Welcome to an alternate 2025. The USSR is still a superpower spanning 11 time zones, its influence stretching from the Baltic to the Pacific, shaping the lives of hundreds of millions. Two ideologies, two economies, two alliances, still locked in rivalry. The world is split, not just by borders but by visions of the future, each side pushing the other to adapt and innovate. This isn't dystopia or utopia, it's a world of ordinary people navigating extraordinary circumstances, finding joy, love, and meaning in a society that never stopped changing. It's a world forced to adapt, innovate, and compromise in ways we never saw. Soviet engineers work side by side with global partners, and new policies emerge from old ideologies. The story begins with decisions and luck, not disaster. History is shaped by those who dare to choose differently and by the unpredictable roll of the dice. The red flag still flies over the Kremlin, not as a relic, but as a living symbol of power. It's a reminder that the past is never truly gone, only rewritten. Let's journey through this reimagined world, its politics, tech, culture, and the balance of power for 8 billion people. Together we'll explore what might have been and what it means for the world we know today. To see how the USSR could have survived, we must delve into the intricate web of its downfall. Understanding why it fell is crucial. The Soviet Union, once a formidable force, was crumbling from within. By the late 80s, the Soviet Union was a giant on shaky ground, militarily mighty but economically stagnant. Its military parades masked the underlying economic decay. It could build rockets, showcasing its technological prowess, but not stock grocery stores, highlighting its economic inefficiencies. The prolonged war in Afghanistan drained resources and morale, exposing the limits of Soviet power and further straining its economy. Gorbachev's glasnost and perestroika aimed to save the system, but unleashed chaos instead. Nationalist movements erupted across the republics, challenging the unity of the Soviet state. Economic reforms, intended to revitalize the economy, brought more pain than progress, leading to widespread discontent. In August 1991, hardliners attempted a coup to halt the reforms, fearing the loss of their power and the disintegration of the Soviet Union. The coup failed, thanks to civil resistance led by Boris Yeltsin, who became a symbol of defiance and hope for change. The central government's authority collapsed. Republics declared independence, marking the end of an era. By Christmas, Gorbachev resigned, acknowledging the irreversible changes that had swept through the nation. The Soviet flag was lowered for the last time, symbolizing the end of a superpower. The world's other superpower was gone. The unipolar world began with the United States emerging as the dominant global force. But what if it hadn't? Imagine a world where the USSR persisted, reshaping global dynamics and altering the course of history. Imagine a world where the 1991 coup is not only crushed, but decisively so, this time, by a powerful alliance of KGB and military leaders who remain fiercely loyal to Gorbachev, determined to preserve the Union at any cost. Gorbachev emerges from the crisis not weakened but emboldened, his authority solidified, he's able to push through deeper, more controlled reforms that had previously seemed impossible. He negotiates a genuine Union treaty, transforming the USSR into a looser, more flexible federation, the Union of Sovereign Soviet Republics. This new structure is designed to address the demands for autonomy while keeping the core of the Union intact. Republics like Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan gain significant autonomy over their internal affairs, yet remain united on crucial issues like defense, foreign policy, and shared economic interests. Economic reforms take on a red capitalism model. State control remains over key sectors such as energy and defense, but special economic zones are established to experiment with market-driven growth and attract foreign investment. Cities like Leningrad and Odessa transform into vibrant hubs for international trade and investment, all under careful state supervision to ensure stability and control. The Communist Party remains firmly in charge, but it's forced to adapt, engaging with a more sophisticated, diverse, and increasingly vocal population that demands both progress and stability. The Iron Fist now wears a velvet glove, allowing limited economic freedom and controlled public expression, but never truly risking the party's ultimate grip on power. The USSR enters the 21st century as a unique hybrid, authoritarian, federal, and surprisingly competitive on the world stage, blending old ideology with new pragmatism. It's not the old Soviet Union, but a new formidable global player, respected, sometimes feared, but undeniably influential in shaping the New World Order. Collapse is averted, at least for now. The future remains uncertain, but the Union stands reformed and resilient, ready to face the challenges of a new era. In 2025, the Cold War never ended, it just changed shape. The Warsaw Pact survives, reformed but still under Moscow's command. The Berlin Wall is now a smart wall, crossable, but tightly controlled. NATO never expands east. Germany remains divided. The EU is smaller, its purpose sharpened by the Soviet challenge. China's rise is checked by a strong USSR. Beijing and Moscow are uneasy allies and rivals. The Middle East is still a chessboard of US-Soviet competition. Proxy conflicts simmer in Africa and Latin America. The world is not unipolar but a tense, managed standoff between the US, the Soviet bloc, and a secondary China. Crisis is permanent, but so is balance. Rivalry with the West drives Soviet innovation. The USSR builds its own tech ecosystem, a red silicon triangle in Moscow, Novosibirsk, and Minsk. State-driven tech excels in military hardware, cybersecurity, AI for surveillance, and space. Sovnet, the Soviet internet, is censored but spawns domestic software giants. The space race never ends. By the 2000s, there's a Soviet lunar base, and by 2025, a tense joint Mars mission with the US. Soviet consumer tech is robust, not flashy. Think Lada Niva, not Tesla. Infrastructure is world-class automated metros, high-speed rail from Leningrad to Vladivostok. But the same AI that powers the grid also powers state surveillance. The KGB, rebranded, uses algorithms to monitor dissent. Facial recognition is everywhere, public safety or constant control. Soviet tech is a double-edged sword, collective progress, but unprecedented social control. Global culture is a two-way street, not just Western exports. Soviet cinema, music, and art compete globally. Epic films from Mosfilm, electronic music from East Berlin. Soviet brands dominate at home, Western goods are niche luxuries, state control persists, media follows the party line, dissent is stifled, and artists walk a fine line. The Bolshoi and Moscow Symphony are cultural weapons, not just art. Online, the cultural Cold War rages. The West tries to breach Sovnet, while Soviet propaganda targets Western social media. Western youth flirt with Soviet aesthetics. Soviet youth dream of the West. Culture is a battleground for the planet's soul. The US-Soviet rivalry defines global power in 2025. The UN is a stage for superpower vetoes and drama. Progress on global issues like pandemics or climate only happens when interests align. Climate change is a battleground, not a shared cause. Each side blames the other. Nuclear arsenals remain vast. Mutually assured destruction still keeps the peace. Smaller nations play the blocks against each other for aid and deals. The non-aligned movement is powerful, not forgotten. The world economy is split. Dollar versus ruble, Western versus Eastern blocks. Globalization is limited. Supply chains are regional, not global. The world is less efficient, but more resilient to shocks. The reformed USSR faces deep internal strains. Nationalism simmers in the Baltics, Ukraine, and the Caucasus. Autonomy, not independence. Red capitalism breeds inequality. Oligarchs thrive, workers resent. Demographic shifts, declining Slavic birth rates, rising Central Asian populations, fuel tension. Moscow struggles to balance Russian dominance with a changing union. The system works, but it's brittle, a pressure cooker, always at risk of boiling over. This alternate 2025 is a world of echoes, a rivalry that never ended. No unipolar moment, but less freedom for millions behind a modern Iron Curtain. Would a bipolar world have forced cooperation or paralyzed progress? There are no easy answers. The world missed the democratic energy of 1991, but maybe avoided chaos too. By imagining a surviving USSR, we see how much our world was shaped by its absence. History is not set in stone, it's a series of branching paths. The future, like the past, is always up for grabs.